Hello and welcome to Arcanum Uncovered. Today, we are traveling to the world of Scadrial to answer a question that Harmony himself is unable to answer. Why is Vin so special? At first glance, this doesn't seem like a big deal. After all, she was only a temporary holder of Preservation's power. Sure, she held it for longer than the Lord Ruler or Kelsier, but her time with it was still relatively short, especially on the timescale of shards. Upon closer inspection, though, you can start to see some oddities. Taken straight from the epigraph of the Hero of Ages, Vin was special. Preservation chose her from a very young age, as I have mentioned. I believe that he was grooming her to take his power, yet the mind of Preservation was very weak at that point, reduced only to the fragment that we knew as the Mist Spirit. What made him choose this girl? Was it because she was Mistborn? Was it because she had snapped so early in life, coming to her powers even as she went through the pains of the unusually difficult labor her mother went through to bear her? Vin was unusually talented and strong with allomancy, even from the beginning. I believe that she must have drawn some of the mist into her when she was still a child, in those brief times when she wasn't wearing the earring. Preservation had mostly gotten her to stop wearing it by the time Kelsier recruited her, though she put it back on for a moment before joining the crew. Then she'd left it there at his suggestion. Nobody else could draw upon the mists. I have determined this. Why were they open to Vin and not others? I suspect that she couldn't have taken them all in until after she'd touched the power at the Well of Ascension. It was always meant, I believe, to be something of an attuning force, something that once touched would adjust the person's body to be able to accept the mists. Yet she did make use of a small crumb of Preservation's power when she defeated the Lord Ruler, a year before she even began hearing the thumping of the power's return to the well. There is much more to this mystery. Perhaps I will tease it out eventually as my mind grows more and more accustomed to its expanded nature. Perhaps I will determine why I was able to take the powers myself. For now, I only wish to make a simple acknowledgement to the woman who held the power just before me. Of all of us who once touched it, I feel she was the most worthy. She once asked why Ruin had chosen her. The primary answer is simple. It had little to do with her personality, attitudes, or even skill with allomancy. She was simply the only child Ruin could find who was in the position to gain the right hemalurgic spike, one that would grant her heightened power with bronze, which would then let her sense the location of the Well of Ascension. She had an insane mother, a sister who was a seeker, and was herself Mistborn. That was precisely the combination Ruin needed. There were other reasons, of course, but even Ruin didn't know them. So, why is Vin so special? Why was she the most suited for Preservation's vessel? Was it, as Sazed posits, that she was a Mistborn? Was it because of how early in life she snapped? Why was she so unusually strong and skilled in allomancy? Why was she able to draw in the mists when no one else was able to? And what were these other reasons that even Ruin didn't know? Be prepared, because the answer for all of these things are pretty dense. We are going to be talking about everything from connection to BEUs, intent, savantism, and even romantic theory. Preservation's power existed in 3 different states. Solid in the form of the beads of Lerasium that were at the Well of Ascension. Liquid in the power of the Well of Ascension. And gas, which was the mists. This is important to understand because each of the different forms of Preservation's power mean different things. The first thing I want to cover is why Vin was such a strong allomancer. I believe this is the easiest thing to explain. You see, unlike most magic in the Cosmere, allomancy and feruchemy are genetic. The more pure your bloodline, the more powerful your magic. Aside from her Ska mother, Vin actually has a very pure bloodline. Her dad is an obligator, and not just any obligator, but Tevedium Tekiel, Lord Praelin of the Steel Ministry. Now, they don't specifically talk about the bloodline of the obligators as being pure, but looking at their policy for bedding scars, I would assume that they have a more pure bloodline than most. This would definitely contribute to her stronger allomancy. However, there may also be a couple other things. The first one I want to mention is something I have contemplated for a long time. If you're using a shard's power in a way that matches its intent, would it be stronger? You see, each shard has an intent that makes up its entire being. The shard is bound by that intent, and doing anything that goes against it weakens the shard. But what if this also affects the people using their magic? Something that's very strange about preservation is the type of magic granted. If you look at it, allomancy really feels like an assassin's toolkit. Vin herself says this. After the death of Kelsier, she says her role is the assassin. Honestly though, for an assassin, she isn't all that great. In fact, she routinely leaves people alive and really only kills as a last resort. The only Mistborn we have seen that actively uses her power to preserve instead of destroy is Vin. And take a look at the different powers available. Every single one of them could actually be used to preserve instead of to cause ruin. You could push and pull metals away from people. You could soothe crowds or encourage depressed people. All of the elementic abilities we see could just as easily protect instead of destroy. Another option is that while using allomancy, Vin may have been drawing on the mists. As Harmony said, she subconsciously did. But why does that produce stronger allomancy? Well, to understand that, you have to understand what exactly burning metals on Scadrial does. Say there are 16 different doors inside of you. Each of them are a different size and shape. Burning a metal opens the corresponding door. Preservation's power leaves the spiritual realm and molds itself to that shape of the door to enter the physical realm. Whatever shape it molded into is the power that is released. Eating a bead of Lerasium creates these doors inside of you. This is an important distinction to make because it's very different from Vin drawing in the mists. Drawing on the mists is instead using raw investiture to power that allomancy. This allows the metal to be used at will because it is a key that can fit through any of those doors. But why was Vin able to do this? Sure, she's obviously stronger than allomancers, probably because of her pure bloodline, but why can she draw on the mists? Well, that, I believe, is due to her being something we have never seen before. Vin is an allomantic savant. Now, you probably haven't heard of this term. In fact, you may even want to accuse me of making this term up. All I can say to that is, you're right. I did do some quick Googling, and while this term has been used before, as far as I can tell, it hasn't been used in this context. I'm not going to go deep into what savantism does. Instead, I will just point you to the best example of a savant in the series. Spook, love or hate him, did a great job of using his powers to the extreme and becoming a savant. Vin wasn't a Tenai savant, though. I don't think she was a savant in any one form of allomancy. In fact, I don't think she was like the Lord Ruler either, who was allegedly a savant in every form of allomancy. I think she was a savant in allomancy itself, and her reward for that was being able to draw on the mists. How did that happen, though? If Earth's human brain is a good analog for a Scadrian brain, then, depending on the study you believe, we learn much faster from birth to around 7 years old. But Vin wasn't burning metals all that time, was she? Well, she probably was. Remember, the water in Luthadel intentionally had trace amounts of metals in it. So from birth, Vin was probably using allomancy. This wasn't a skill that she picked up or was taught. It was literally a part of her from birth. Using her luck was something she just did, and her skill impressed even Breeze. This allowed her to do something that not even the Lord Ruler was able to accomplish, and become an allomantic savant, granting her the power to pull the mist directly into her. So, why couldn't Vin just absorb the mist in her fight with the Lord Ruler and ascend to preservation right there? Well, the average soul in the Cosmere is 1 BEU, or breath equivalent unit. Breaths are a scale of power from the land of Nothis, which is where the book Warbreaker takes place. Mistborn very rarely hold anything more than 1 BEU of power, because when burning metal, they are a door that allows the power to pass through, not a vessel that holds the power until needed. However, drawing on the mists takes preservation's power from the physical realm and puts it into you, allowing the wielder to shape the power into the form of allomancy they desire. The more of this power that enters you, the more invested you become. The problem then was that Vin's body wasn't a suitable vessel for the power of preservation until after she had touched the power at the well. This expanded her mind and her body so that it was now able to hold the proper amount of preservation's power and ascend to become the new vessel. This wasn't just an attuning force. It was preparing the body in all three realms so that their soul could handle that level of investiture and ascend. Vin using the mist all of her life gave her a connection to preservation that was unheard of. Strangely enough, something as mundane as snapping at birth ended up being one of the key parts of Vin's ability to kill the Lord Ruler and ascend, if only temporarily, as a perfect vessel for preservation. But what do you think? Is this why Vin was able to draw on the mists? What were the extra reasons Ruin didn't even know? I have yet to be able to figure out any suitable explanation for that. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe and join us next time so that we can all become a little more quantifiably invested. Another option is that while using allomancy, let's drive everyone around in the van.